So you're an executive, a CEO, a co-founder or founder of a company, and now you want to get into business coaching. You're having that season of your life where you want to add meaning and purpose to your life by helping other businesses, and you're looking for how is it that you get started. Here are some steps to follow for an individual who wants to get started into coaching businesses the right way, especially for someone who already has some experience, has worked as executive, CEO, senior manager in a business. So here's what you want to do. The first thing to consider is identify what gives you joy. This is one thing that I may not recommend to somebody who is starting off first and 20-year-old trying to be an executive coach, but somebody who has had some years under their belt, somebody who is in their 30s, 40s, 50s, even 60s, and starting as a business coach. The first question you want to ask is, will this give me joy? The category I'm starting with, the kind of businesses I'm going to work with, the kind of coaching I want to do, is this joyous? Because if it will not give you joy, you are too experienced to be wanting to do this. It is very likely that you will start to hate it much faster, and then you're going to quit on it much faster, because what's the point of doing something that doesn't fuel you at that stage of your life? So first question to ask is, will this give you joy? And if it doesn't align with your joy, I would reconsider it. Is right. This is the first criteria: is, does this give me joy? The category I'm picking, the kind of coaching I want to pick, the kind of people I want to work with. Let that be joyous. Also, because I know at this season of life and at this experience of life that you have, it is a lot more likely that you will be successful either way. So why not be successful while being in a state of joy? Which brings me to the second thing to consider, which is look for the problem you can solve. See, you have some experience under your belt of life generally, right? And so you can solve a lot of problems. You've most likely solved a wide category of problems in your life. But there are some problems that you might find that you're incredibly good at and enjoy it as well. So identify that problem before getting started, before starting to just say you're a business coach and start going out in the world and start coaching. The reason is because when you are working with a client, and if you can get them success much faster at a cheaper price, they're more likely to recommend you, they're more likely to work with you again and again and again. And that's the secret to a wildly successful business coach. A wildly successful business coach, the differentiation between them is they can get you the same result that you could get by yourself, but in a cheaper, faster way. That's the secret, right? That's why you hire a business coach and a consultant, is because they can get you the result in a cheaper, faster way than you can get yourself. Because an entrepreneur is capable, right? They can find the answer. It's not like it's impossible for them to find the answer, but a business coach consultant can do it faster and cheaper, and that's what makes them wildly successful. So my invitation for you is search for the problem that you can solve within your frame of reference, within your ideas, within your past experiences. The reason for that is because the third step to this is when you start coaching, you want to first test this idea out, right? So you'll find 1 to 3 clients that will probably get underpaid, right? You're not going to charge a full fee. You just want to get clients to test out if what you think you can solve is actually solvable. Here's the reason why. Coaching and offering is a lot about confidence. How confident do you feel in your service, and quality of service is what determines how much you can really charge. It has nothing to do with what market dictates. It's very much to do with what is your confidence level when you're making the offer. And to be able to have that confidence, it's always a good idea to have some case studies under your belt. 1 to 3 clients usually is enough for you to start going out in the world and talking about how you helped a business to go from a place to another place, right? And so what you want to do is you want to identify 1 to 3 clients, charge them a reasonable fee that makes you feel safe, but it's not extraordinary. You might still be unsatisfied with the kind of money that you're getting paid, but it lets you test the market. It lets you test your ideas. It lets you test your coaching philosophy. It lets you test your consulting philosophy. It lets you test your mentorship with this client, right? And because it's testing all these things, you're formalizing your methodology, you're formalizing your package. You're also understanding what's the value to the client in a real feedback term instead of something that's hypothetical in your mind. When I work with clients, I would offer them a fee. If I was in a new market, I would offer them a fee that they feel safe with. And it's a very interesting proposition, interesting way to figure out your pricing. Here's how you figure out your pricing. You look at the lower tier of the market, you look at the higher tier of the market. You know that the higher tier of the market is probably somebody that is very seasoned, way old in that industry, probably has got 10, 20 years under the belt, and so they can charge that fee, right? Then you go ahead and you ask your clients, what will you pay for it? Right? And then you charge somewhere between what they will pay for it and what's the top tier of the market. Somewhere in the middle of that is what your fee becomes. Because what a client says they're comfortable with, they're usually comfortable with about 10, 20% more. And that's kind of how you'll find your pricing. But to find all of that, you have to first get some kind of foot in the door and even see if you can get the result for your client, because then you can promise the result, right? So you can say, hey, you can get this result with me, and here's a case study for it. How much would you pay for it? And now you get a pricing from your client. And now you can go, okay, 10, 20% more of that is probably still okay with your clients. And now, as you keep creating results, as you get more experience, as you get more name or goodwill in the market, you keep moving up in how much you can charge for the clients and for the work that you do with the clients. Now, once you have this pricing after the success of the 1 to 3 tests that you might do, now make as many offers as you possibly can with the case study that you have. And here's the reason why. Most coaches live in the hell of maybe. They try to perfect the package, they try to perfect the pricing, and that is a huge maybe, because there is no rule book that's just a price is a good price or a price is a bad price. It totally depends on how well you position yourself. If you position yourself well, all prices are great prices, right? So find out how to position yourself by actually making offers. The more case studies you tell, the more offers you make, the more likely it is that your client is going to say yes. Every single time when I get to a new market, like right now I'm in a new market, all I look for is how many offers can I make? If I can make 4 offers, 5 offers, 10 offers, and the more offers I make, the more feedback I get. The more no's I get too, but more feedback I get. And every time I get a point of feedback, I get to learn, oh, that works for this market and that doesn't work for this market. This pricing model works for this market, and this is absolutely what they need for them to feel safe and secure while working with me. How can I pull this off? How can I pull that off? But all of that is happening as I'm receiving feedback from my market to be able to go, okay, this is what we can continue to do. This is how we can tweak these offers. This is how we can really get real-time feedback and get yeses by tweaking the offer in partnership with the first few clients. And once the baseline is set up, then you're just looking for how can you do more of the same thing that you already established as baseline. Which brings me to the 5th step. And the 5th step is go to places where your clients are hanging out. The classic mistakes that a new coach can make, even a seasoned coach can make, is to just go to network. Going to network means nothing, because what you will go and is you will tell your services to people that are not interested in the solutions that you offer. You'll invest time in having conversations with people who have no interest in what you offer, how you offer them. They're probably not at the volume that you need them to be. They're not at the scale that you need them to be. They don't have the problems that you want to solve. What's the point? But if you go to places where people are already interested in the solutions that you offer, every offer you make has a greater chance of success. So when you make 100 offers to just random people, the likelihood of somebody saying yes is maybe 1 to 2%, right? But if you go to a relevant market, people who are looking for the solution that you're offering, and then you make 100 offers, you're likely to get 20 people to say yes, even 50 people to say yes. And because of that reason, your success rate goes up. Your value of every hour dedicated into your business goes up, and your success becomes sooner because now you're only talking to the most relevant audiences. People freak out when in coaching I tell them, hey, you got to niche down. You got to find a really small market that you serve. And they freak out because they think, oh, but it's a small market. How will I make millions of dollars in doing this small market that we're talking about? And what they don't understand is small markets often have a lot more revenue than you can imagine. Working in a city, a small city, owning a particular space of market share is a lot more revenue than trying to serve everybody in the city or going to a big city and then serving everyone. The other day, I was talking to a coach, and the coach was like, oh, I think I live in Dubai here, and the market is so limited and so on and so forth. And I said, okay, are you the absolute dominant person when it comes to your category in this market? They're like, no. I was like, have you tried to be the absolute dominant person in your category? She was like, oh no, but my category is all categories. I was like, well, that's exactly why if you go to a bigger market, you're going to have the same problem. Because right now, what is happening is Dubai is a small market. Everybody knows everybody, or eventually everybody knows everybody. And so it's because it's a small market. If you do a good job, everybody gets to know about your work. So for example, right now I'm in Dubai, and in Dubai, the market's really small. right? It's a city of like a couple of million people. And so eventually you get to know the business community, you get to know the business community. So if you do a good job, everybody talks and everybody kind of gets you involved in one way or another. But what is good about being in a small city is you can become a much bigger fish in a smaller pond because usually there are no sharks, right? Everybody is kind of like really nice and everybody's really kind and nobody wants to get a bad name because this is a small city. People will talk, right? A small category is the same, right? If you pick a small category, most likely that you will interact with nicer people because nobody's trying to eat anybody else's food in a small market. Now, if you go to a big market, let's say I moved from Dubai to New York and I said, I want to build a market there because, bigger market, more companies, or San Francisco. Now I'm dealing with sharks because it's such a large market that, first of all, somebody already owns that space that I'm going to get into. And the moment I try to enter that space, they're going to try and eat me up, right? So you want to find a small market like Dubai or whatever city that you're in or whatever neighborhood that you're in or whatever country that you're in that is not actually fully utilizing the potential of that category of businesses so you can actually dominate it. Because when you dominate it, whatever income goals you have, you will absolutely crush it. You will absolutely make all the money that you need to make because it is such a small category that the big sharks are not considering it. Companies that have coaches and consultants, McKinsey, is not trying to solve that problem because they're too big for them to focus on such a small market. But you are small enough to actually solve that problem. So don't go to big markets. Big markets are scary. Big markets have a lot of people. Everybody that is successful today started with a small market. They dominated that market. They became the number one player or the top five players of that market. And then they said, okay, maybe I need to go to a bigger market. But now they had resources, they had talent, they had people that already knew them in that market and they would introduce them to other people in the other markets. And so it became a lot more easier for them to be successful. Success is built step by step. Don't try to jump the gun and go to the big markets. Go to the small markets first. So go to places where your people hang out. The people who have the problems you solve, they hang out because when you start there, it's much easier for you to enroll, much faster for you to enroll, much quicker for you to get results. For that matter, it's very likely when you own that market, you are going to not need to go to other markets because that market will keep you busy with all the revenue you need, all the business you need, all the problems you want to solve. This brings me to the sixth step, which is to go out and make at least 100 offers. 100 relevant people offer, not 100 people in the street offers. Well, you can do that too and you'll make some money. But if you make 100 relevant offers, 100 offers for people that are in the space that you want to solve problems and the problems you want to solve, you will find success. There is no way for you to fail if you made 100 offers because if you find the right market and as you're serving that clientele with those problems, out of the 100 offers you will make, it is very likely you will have at least 20 up to 50 to 70 people say yes to work with you. And when you have 20 people to work with, now you're compounding confidence. Now you're compounding success. Now you're compounding money. And when you get into that compounding game, you will learn that the problem most of the time is getting started. Because once you have started, once you're seeing success, your success kind of compounds on top of each other. When you are getting success with a client, the client refers you to other clients. When you're getting success with a particular problem, that attracts more people with the similar problem because you're getting success with that problem. You're actually solving those problems. When you get some traction, you yourself give yourself more faith and then you can create more success. So the whole idea of starting a business, why it's hard is because we don't get started. The moment you get started, the moment you make offers, the moment you get yeses and nos for your offer, you make no as a feedback loop to learn from, and yeses as a feedback loop to do more of, right? So every no teaches you what not to do. Every yes teaches you what to do more of, right? And you use these feedback loops to keep compounding your capability. And as your capability goes up, your yeses become easier. And you become less affected by no's because you just said no is a part of the game. And all that mental story that you tell yourself kind of goes away because then you are so focused and so laser committed to creating and compounding that success that it becomes just easy to even have more of it. Which brings me to the seventh step, which is very important once you're getting success, which is absolutely keep increasing your prices. See, when you are getting a success rate of 50% or 70% enrollment, which means if you pitch it to 10 people, 7 people say yes, or 5 people say yes, what you're really doing is you're underpricing yourself. you're underpricing to what the clients actually believe your pricing should be. They will not say it, of course, and they shouldn't, but it's your job to constantly challenge it. So my rule is until I get to about 10 to 15% enrollment rate, which is out of every 10 people, 1 to 2 people would say yes, is I would keep increasing my prices by 5%, 10%. Remember, there's this rule by James Clear in the book called Atomic Habits. He says that if you increase your habits or your capability or get better at habits by just 1% every day, 1%, which is nothing, marginal, right? That marginal gain over time will create a net growth of over 100%, right? In just like, I think, 6 months or something, you'll be twice as good as what you were 6 months before. And that's really where the secret of increased pricing also lies, is coaching success also lies, is just get better a little bit more. Increase your pricing just by a little bit more. Every time you get into an enrollment conversation, just a little bit more, because soon enough, you'll be charging twice as much and getting still the same quality of enrollments that you were getting, because you're tweaking, you're refining. And as you're refining, in the process of refining, you find how to enroll better at a higher price to get even better results for your clients. And that reminds me of the final point, which is the eighth point, which is I want to correlate it to a story so you understand. So Mount Everest, people climb Mount Everest, they use one same track every single time to climb. And I think now there's about 70% success rate of people finishing and going all the way to the top because they're following the same path as previous people were. But you know when people die most while on the track to Mount Everest? It's on the way down. It's on the way down because people lose the same amount of focus that they have going up. And that tends to happen in businesses all the time. Is when you get success, you get complacent. And because you get complacent, you start to not focus on what's important. And when you stop focusing on what's important, you just start responding and start reacting to what's urgent. When you're only reacting to what's urgent, you're not doing the important. When you're not doing the important, well, you're probably dying. So be mindful when you get to that level, when you get to that success, when you're making 100K, 200K, 500K, a million a year on coaching success, is that now, if you don't stay focused, if you don't stay relevant, if you don't keep pushing for going further up, slowly you'll start to walk down. Slowly you'll start to experience that decline, and you won't even realize when your success becomes a failure. I know it sounds really sad towards the end, but it is a very important reminder that you must remember. A success in business coaching, very easy. You commit to 6 months, you commit to 4 months of training with me in my certified business coach program, and then you commit a couple of more months in actually doing the work of going out, making the right offers, getting people enrolled into your programs. You'll find success based on how you define it, but you'll find success is not that complicated. It's very simple to create business success, especially in business coaching. But it's very easy to decline. It's very easy to kind of like fall off the wagon and stop doing what's important and what's really moving the needle. So I invite you to, of course, join me in our training of our certified business coach. We'll show you exactly all the tools you need to help businesses that you want to help in the way you want to help them, give you exact models for it, and also a holistic picture of it. So while I invite you to join us in this training called Certified Business Coach here at Mindvalley, we'll love to have you join us in this program where we'll show you exactly some of the models that we use to create success for our clients that you can use in different businesses that you choose to help in the way you choose to help them and create success for them. But I also want to remind you that once you've done that certification, once you've finished it, once you're getting success with your clients, remember to keep yourself in an environment where you're always growing. Because if you're not always growing, there's a chance that you're starting to die.